I want our audience to get a sense for what your job can entail. To be the chief of delegation for the International Committee for the Red Cross in Syria sounds like you could be taking a lot of tea in palaces. But I know that that's not the truth. And I want you to talk a little bit, especially about the evacuation of Aleppo last year and the risks and dangers for you, for your delegates, but also what you found there.
Thank you very much. I'm working for the ICRC since many years, and I'm in Syria since over 6 years. I've known also Aleppo before the conflict. As we all know, Aleppo was the second biggest city of Syria, the economic city, and people were living, a lot of culture. And unfortunately, when the conflict started, the situation started to deteriorate, and the city of Aleppo was divided. One part was controlled by the government, the other part by opposition groups. And with numerous fighting on a daily basis, the population has suffered a lot. And the situation deteriorated even further because of numerous actors on the ground. We all know Syria is a proxy war. And for us, since the beginning, and this is maybe also the particularity of the International Committee of the Red Cross, is to reach all people in need, wherever they are. And
for you, that often means crossing front lines,
exactly.
Going into hot zones where there is fighting.
Exactly. Like it was the case in Aleppo, like in other places, but I would focus, for example, on Aleppo. Even before the evacuation, we tried to reach people who were on the other part of the cross line and to deliver aid and also to provide some protection because there were a lot of families separated. And this requires really sometimes weeks, months to get all the necessary approvals, but also most importantly to also have all the necessary acceptance. And this is the particularity of the International Committee of the Red Cross. To be patient, everything takes time, but this at the end provides positive results, because in our work we need to build confidence with all the numerous parties involved in this conflict.
When you finally got to Aleppo last December, as you say, after having negotiated with all these parties, after having gained the permission from all these parties to carry out an evacuation, how were the people? What did you find?
Thank you. In this area, we managed months before, in April, to access and to provide aid, but then for months we could not access the area. Maybe few points really struck us. First of all, to access this area was not only the negotiations, but we knew that we were taking risks, even if we had put in place some security measures. But even to access the area, we needed also some to remove some clutter, to be careful, because we knew around there were some mines. And then more and more you entered this area. I saw, having been months before, much more distractions. And what struck us the most was the thousands of people who wanted to go out, were waiting for us and the Syrian Arab Red Crescent to evacuate them. We were coming inside with buses. They had suffered a lot under constant shelling, day and night. And so when you see this crowd of people desperate, and mainly the children, babies, children, they were not crying, they were not laughing, but not even crying. And they were completely affected. And Yeah.
It's that kind of silence when you go into a place like
Yeah.
that where people have been so traumatized over such a long period of time,
Exactly.
and you hear the silence that you understand how deep the trauma is.
Yeah.
And that, in reading some of your reports from Aleppo, was really what struck you was the silence.
The silence, and mainly of children. And it was also winter, it was extremely cold in this area. Also, because of all the distractions, they had no electricity, no water, and this not only for a few months, for 4 years. And then when you see the children without socks, I was freezing, but well covered, but I could not complain when you see that they had hardly anything on to wear.
Have conditions improved in Syria since that time? Have you seen an improvement on the ground in your access, your ability to deliver humanitarian aid?
Well, in Aleppo, in the city, violence has decreased. There is still a lot of violence in rural areas. Some people want to go back, and they went back, but there are so much destruction, and this is also that humanitarian organizations have to help people go back, but also that they have in their neighborhoods, for example, water, electricity, so we do boreholes in order to increase the capacity of the water. We are rehabilitating some clinics. We are providing hot meals also through the charity associations supporting them. And before they go in, mines have to be cleared. Now, Aleppo city, still violence reduced, but in so many other parts of the country, violence is continuing among the different parties to this conflict. Like we all know also recently a lot of fighting in the northeast with Raqqa, Deir ez-Zor, and where we could recently finally access Raqqa after 4 years. And what we have seen was also thousands of displaced people who have taken enormous risks to flee, and who have seen also their family members being killed while fleeing, and in taking so much risk, but also then to find themselves in very difficult conditions.
I understand your commitment to your job and the work that you do. This clearly is a calling.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand from the position as somebody who, as a journalist, I reported on combat, on conflict and humanitarian disasters. I put my hand up and say, I have PTSD. From your position, and understanding your commitment, how do you do self-care? How do you make sure you can continue to cope?
Well, first of all, I think it's the most of us working, well, all of us working for a humanitarian organization and like the ICRC, which it's first of all, as you said, this commitment, this motivation that we have, the support that we receive. We know we belong to a humanitarian organization which is very credible, but also we want to accomplish our humanitarian mission. Sometimes I have to admit it's very frustrating, because I was saying it takes so much time until we reach the people in need. But once you do it, there is a satisfaction. The people with whom we work, because if I take Syria, the biggest number of staff are the Syrians, and Syrians are really the population affected, or my colleagues, my Syrian colleagues, who are also affected, because they have also their family members who have been killed, injured. They themselves have been displaced 3 or 4 times. We see that they are very committed also to help the others. So this resilience, this persistence, this ability to adjust to any situation, like we'll never forget when it was really very heavy fighting in Aleppo, for example. I was invited to go on Sunday to the mass, to the church, and we were hearing mortars falling every 10 minutes. but people continue to pray and even to sing la chorale. And this is, people want to that this conflict ends. And I think what gives us, it's also all this strength when you see that you can reach more people in need. And sometimes it's not only to deliver aid or to protect the people, it's also to go to listen to them, although they know that you cannot solve all their problems, but really to listen to their problems, to be close to them. I think for the ICRC, it's very important to be as close as possible to the people, understand their needs.
One last question. We have very little time left. What do you want? What could the ICRC, what could the humanitarian community use from the people in this room to help you help people in Syria and the work your colleagues do elsewhere?
Well, the ICRC, like our main partner is the Syrian Arab Red Crescent and many other, all the other humanitarian organizations. The humanitarian needs are immense in Syria. So we all are very committed to continue provide aid, to take some risks. But what is really needed is that a political solution be found. People, the Syrians are tired. They want, again, stability, education for their children, to earn their own money, to have a job, to have proper health care. So it's mainly to find a political solution. And in the meantime is to maybe help humanitarian organizations, well, those who have influence on the states or groups who are involved in the conflict, to tell them at least to respect the basics of international humanitarian law. Civilians have to be protected. Hospitals should not be attacked. And the Syrian population deserves it.
Marianne Gasser, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We turn now to a remarkable young woman. She's just 19 years old. She is the youngest UNICEF Goodwill ambassador ever, and she is the first such ambassador who also holds official refugee status. Please welcome Muzoon Almellehan. Muzoon has had quite a journey in her 19 years, from Syria to a refugee camp in Jordan and now to school in the UK. Tell us a little bit about that trip.
First of all, Salo, Jumabel Muzoon. I'm so pleased to be here, and I'm so pleased also to represent UNICEF as their youngest Goodwill ambassador, and also to represent millions of children around the world who don't have voice, also they don't have access to their rights. Actually, my journey started when I fled my home in Syria in 2013. And that moment was the hardest moment in my life, because I didn't want to flee my home, to leave everything behind, to leave my relatives, my friends, my country where I was born, and especially my school. I was worried about my education. I thought I cannot continue my studies in a place like a refugee camp. So it was really difficult, but we had no choice. We had to flee. And my dad decided to go to Jordan to live in Za'atari camp, which is located in Jordan. And when we were on our way to Jordan, I was thinking about my education. I just was thinking about finding a chance to have my learning there.
What did you take with you?
Actually, at that time, my dad told us to pack the most important things and not heavy things. I said yes, but at that moment I said I want to pack my books, because I believe my books are the powerful thing that I have and the most valuable thing to me, honestly, because for this reason I packed my books, and they were more than 10 books. Actually, I struggled a lot to carry them to Jordan. because we had to walk around 3 hours, and it was really difficult. And my dad even saw me was struggling to carry that bag, and I said, could you please help me? And when he helped me, he found that how heavy the bag is, and he just asked me, Muzoon, what did you bring with you? I said, my books. And he just said, you are really crazy because, you know, brought these books and even you don't need them in Jordan. My answer was, if I didn't find education in the camp, I would study by these books because these books are my future.
So in the camp, you not only found school, you also you saw something else that was happening in the camp. Not everyone who was in the camp, not every young person was going to school. So what did you do?
Actually, first, when I arrived there, I found the life was really difficult and very challenging. We had no electricity, we had no internet, for example, and I had to live in a tent, and we had to do everything in one tent, and many other challenges. But for me personally, I didn't care about any of those challenges. Just I asked about the school, if I can have access to my education. And when I found out that I can go to school, that moment it has really changed my life. And I realized by education, of course, I can change this difficult situation and I can make a difference for me and for others in my community and also for rebuilding my country. But what I found, not all the people love education like me, and they don't believe in school or learning. And that makes me shocked because what I know about my country and about my people who are really educated and who believe in education. So I was really sad to see girls like me who thinks that education it is not a priority in terms of war and difficulties. So from there I told myself I have to do something. It is not only my future, but also it is a future of millions of Syrians who left everything behind. So I have to make educated generation for Syria and for facing the challenges as well.
So how did you do that? What did you do in that camp?
When I saw those challenges and when I saw girls don't believe in education and also parents and everyone, I said I will start a campaign to encourage them to go back to school. So first I started in my classes in school. I was sitting with girls telling them you can do anything in your life, but first you have to go to school and have your education, because education is the best protection. And not the marriage, for example, because in the camps I saw that the marriage at the young age it increased a lot, and when the people lost hope, they think that marriage is the best protection. But of course, marriage is not the best protection. So education is the best protection and the best way for building better lives.
When you say marriage at a young age, what age are you talking about?
Actually, they think the marriage is the best thing, but what I told them that you can do anything after going to school.
Are you talking about girls who were 15, 16, younger?
Yes, at that age, actually, it was sometimes even 13, which was really, really a negative thing that I have seen. And the worst thing is the most of the marriages are unsuccessful cases. So when the girl just gets married actually at the age 13, then she gets divorced and then she lost everything. Even she cannot back to school again because she thinks, I got married and then maybe she has also children, which is more, worse than, it's really bad.
So in your role now as a Goodwill ambassador, I think we understand now why UNICEF has made you a Goodwill ambassador. Talk to me about a trip that you made to Chad, where you met girls who were the same age as you are, who had been impacted by Boko Haram. What did those girls tell you, and what did you say to those girls?
Yeah, actually, let's start now after leaving the camps, because I lived in the camps around 3 years. And of course, I did many activities there, and then I moved to UK. But when I moved there, I feel lucky that I can go to school and I can think about my future, but I haven't forgotten about others who are still suffering, like Chad. So from the UK also, I use my voice, and of course, I'm still using my voice. I did many activities, including activities with Malala, because we are friends. And then this year in April, I visited Chad with UNICEF. Actually, my visit to Chad, it was really important to me personally, because everything that I saw there, it reminded me in my personal experience. And I was pleased to talk to people and to listen to their challenges and to listen to their stories, because I feel it is important to talk about the children and to represent them, but more importantly to help them. This is, the case that we are here today, and that's why I'm talking in places like G20, like General Assembly, and to go to the field to people who are suffering, just to make the voices of children to be heard. This is actually my goal. So in Chad, I met with girls and boys and many parents as well. And I can mention an example. For example, I met with a girl. Her name is Hasiba, and she's 16 years old. And this girl, she was kidnapped by Boko Haram, which is a terrorist actually group which exists, I think, in Nigeria. And then she spent with them 2 years under exploitation and bad treatment. After those 2 years, she managed to escape, and now she has her treatment in the Lake of Chad. When I met her, she was really pleased to listen to me, and I encouraged her, and I was really pleased to see something in that girl. She has hope. And she told me, I suffered a lot, but also I would love to go to school, but I need opportunities. So what I found in Chad makes me really strong, the hope, even there are actually suffering. So that girl is just a simple example of the millions of children, and she gave me really hope, and she inspired me by her determination to go to school. And what Chad needs, it needs opportunities and it needs help. So it is still a long way to go in Chad, even if I found hope there.
What's your message for young women, young girls like this Hasiba you met in Chad? What do you want women, young women, not only in the developing world, not only who have been made refugees, but young women everywhere, what do you want them to know?
I would them to know that never give up, and just to believe in themselves, and to believe that they can make a change no matter what are their circumstances are, because they really can make a difference, and they can change in their communities. And we need them. We don't need people just give up. Just we need them to fight for their rights and to face the challenges. I know now the life is really tough and difficult in many places of the world, but we have to have hope and just to believe that one day we will have peace. And of course, we'll have this peace by education. And what I would love all of you to do, just let us work together and really think about people who are suffering in the world, because they need you. They need your solidarity in these difficult times. It is really important to support people when they are happy in their countries, but they need you in their difficult times. My story, it is just a very simple story of millions of stories around the world, and my voice is just one voice, but also it is a voice of 27 million children who are out of school due to conflict and war. So if you couldn't hear me when I'm here in front of you and talking to you, you couldn't hear those people who are suffering. So please hear them and fight for them, and let's start together, because we are stronger together. My voice alone, I believe my voice can make a difference, but not alone. I need more voices, and your voices are matter. Thank you so much. Merci
Thank you,
beaucoup.
Muzoon.